Welcome to another VC Wisdom Pod. We have Pearse Coyle with us today. He is a partner, founder at Deeptech Seed Fund. Uh, Pearse was the first investor and the first head of sales in 11 tech ventures, six of which have gone on to scale and or a successful exit. So pretty impressive guy right there. Deeptech Seed Fund has invested in Coitech, Signaps, TradeSec that I'm seeing on their portfolio here. So we're going to talk about their thesis. We're going to talk about Pierre's background as well. It's going to be a fun one. If you want to generate more than 50 meetings per month with a lead gen podcast machine, you can go to podfire.com. We help you monetize your podcast the unconventional way. Pearse, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Sure. Thanks, Charles. More about myself. I would focus just on one thing, which is my background in sales, which usually informs what we have done in Deeptech Seed Fund. And just so a little bit about Deeptech Seed Fund, and then it'll provide some context for what I'm saying about the sales part. If you develop a deep tech venture, if you create a piece of deep tech, if you've got some amazing intellectual property that you've been working on for years and you say, okay, great, I've invented some amazing new thing and it's highly defensible and I now want to commercialize it, it's really, really hard to raise your first round of funding. Everybody will say to you, hey, go a little bit further, or I don't like you scientists, go and get yourself a CEO person, or come back to me when you've got revenue. Is the big one, or come back to me after you've spun it out. Come back to me when you've done all that crap with the university and agreed the terms and all that stuff. So it's really, really hard. And I've experienced it from especially my most recent venture, which was my venture before the fund, which was a spin out from university. We had amazing tech, incredible traction with international semiconductor companies. We still couldn't raise the money because of all the sort of objections I've mentioned before. Now, so I worked in sales, a number of different roles. My first job was with a company. We were selling a US multinational computer company called Wang Computers, which no longer exists. And we were pretty much selling commodity computer hardware. You could buy it from a bunch of places. People knew Wang was Wang was in trouble already. And so there was a question mark about the company. It was really, really hard to sell. We didn't have anything really unique. And I've knocked on a lot of doors. I tried a lot of different tactics. And, we're all used to people trying to sell to us. And the vast majority of the time we're saying, no, please, don't approach me. I'm not interested. So after working in a couple of companies in a sales role and having a really good appreciation as to how hard it is to sell anything, I kind of wised up to the idea that if a venture that, I'm thinking of joining as an employee, original scenario was, will I join this company as an employee? And then later as an angel investor, I realized that any company that is in a situation where people really want to buy from them, like they're saying, oh my God, this is amazing, I really want to buy this, that single sort of data point across all the different characteristics of the company, that is incredibly predictive of success. Now that's kind of, that sounds really obvious if you're talking about companies that are established and they've spun out, they've got some revenue and so on, and they're sort of, that's the stuff that VCs are fighting over deals for that. But if you go back to the really early stage, and a company is just getting started and the team is perhaps incomplete, maybe the product is even incomplete, but if they can get themselves into a position where there's a set of early adopters who, despite those drawbacks, are still really excited about doing business with that company, then that marks that out as a very special case. And if you haven't worked in sales and experienced the kind of the really kind of shitty experience of a day with everybody saying no to you, or all the kind of crap that goes with it, or people not returning your calls and so on, if you don't understand how exceptional it is to be in a position where people are saying where there's really strong pull from the market, then it's hard to appreciate how significant that data point is. That data point about exceptional demand is. So anyway, and the vast majority of VCs don't apply sufficient weight to that data point, and the vast majority of VCs have decided that the sort of really early stage pre-spin out deep tech ventures are just not worth dealing with. And they're mostly correct. I mean, the vast majority of them are not good, But if you've been at the coalface of sales and you understand that, okay, if a guy comes to you and he's got all those drawbacks, but he's got this data point that people are biting his arm off commercially, then that's a special case. So we set up Deeptech Seed Fund to cater for that particular case. And as I say, I've got the scars from a sales career, and I'm not a genius or anything. It's just as a result of those scars in my own career, in terms of the companies I've chose to work with, the companies I've chose to angel invest in, and so on. I was always following that data point. Like, is there exceptional demand? And it's proven really good. And so, like, after some success with angel investing, I said, okay, I'll create a fund and we'll try and do this at scale. And that's what we're doing. That's how I get to here. Sorry, Charles, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I love the simplicity of your thesis. I love simplicity in pretty much any aspect of business, whether it's investing or starting a new venture or investing ads money, actually. So yeah, the question of do I like this product is pretty much the basics for me. Me at this point, I invest money, time, and energy into startups, and usually it's tools that I use, right? So for example, StreamYard. I'll try to get an equity share of that company, what we're filming on, because I'm using that tech. I'm bullish on them. I've compared their solution to others. And yeah, in my field, it can be competitors to Calendly, right? Cold emailing tools. So yeah, I love using the tools first, evaluating them, and afterwards investing in them. In your case, you're investing in Deeptech, which is quite technical by definition, right? How do you make sure to really understand the core of their business if you're not even a user of these business? Do you have like partners that you brainstorm with? Do you brainstorm it with ChatGPT? How do you understand their business and their business model?
Yeah, it's a great question, and actually, I neglected to mention that in my intro, because actually the other big objection and the other big problem in raising Deeptech funding is that most VCs are, almost all really early stage VCs are very generic, and they're trying to invest in stuff that they understand. And one of the big objections from the generalist VCs to the Deeptech early stage pitch is, look, I don't understand the tech and I don't have time to, I'm only putting in 50 or 100K, whatever it is. I don't have time to figure the thing out. So, and that was an objection we got all the time in my last venture. So the way we handle it in Deeptech Seed Fund is we are setting ourselves up to invest in stuff that we do not understand. And the way we do that is twofold. I haven't gone as far as ChatGPT yet. I wouldn't trust it entirely yet. It's still hallucinating to a reasonable extent. But the way we do it is much more robust. So first of all, we are confining ourselves to ventures that have significant traction. And I don't mean traction in the sense of revenue, but rather traction in the sense of they have done an extensive reach out to the market, and there's a subset of the people they've reached out to who are really keen on what they've got, and they can tell me why it is that across the whole world they're interested to do business with that company. And the people in that position are usually significantly expert in the space themselves, and almost all of the time we're confining ourselves to a situation where they will actually spend money, where they will actually pay for a pilot or something like that. So they are saying, I believe it, here's why, and here's the money with which I'm proving it. The other way that we check them out is we have a very good process of interacting with later stage specialist investors. So there is in every sort of weird and wonderful space, there's a handful of investors around the world that are specialized in it. Now that's and those guys are typically happy to hear that somewhere in the world there is a venture that's in their space, and they almost never will do the really pre-seed round, but they're perfectly happy to talk to an investor that's considering doing the pre-seed round, and we get a great view from them. So sometimes we may be looking at something in the UK or France or somewhere, and they will tell us, hey, look, forget about it. There's 2 ventures came out of Korea or somewhere that are like way ahead of these guys. So with reference to expert early adopter customers who are committing, and with reference to specialist investors, that's how we check them out. And by the way, that last point is a huge. Our founder investees love that second part, because we're essentially lining up their next round of funding. We're allowing them to skip the kind of the non-value added seed investor basically go from us plus some grants directly to sort of high value add specialist investors.
Okay, and your process to understand what they're about, you studied their competition, they showed you numbers, right? And the technical stuff you get to understand with time. Is that your mental model to learn quickly about their complex businesses?
No, it's simpler than that. I mean, it goes back to the sort of single data point thing. Like to, we have a really good deal memo that they populate for us. So kind of a deal memo that asks all the key questions. So they put that in, but we hugely weight the outcomes of our conversations with the early adopters. The early adopters typically, are implicitly, you can do desk research on competition. An entrepreneur can tell you about the competition and put up a chart and one of those kind of crazy matrices that tell you how wonderful they are. But the rubber meets the road for us in the early adopter that's in another country that is spending 30 grand on a pilot, telling us why it is they're spending money to interact with a company that doesn't even have a finished product yet. Like, and they will tell us, they typically are telling us, look, we really need this. We've been looking for a solution in this area for years. Nobody else has it. These guys have something. So that's the acid test for us.
Right, and I guess what's complex is their product, not their business models. Most of the time, the science and how they got their product and their IP is quite complex, but the business model itself, most of the co-founders don't have a clue of how to commercialize. At least that's been my feedback in Deeptech. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, but and it's a question you haven't asked yet, I suppose, about deal sourcing. We do most of our deal sourcing via incubators that do a really good market discovery activity. Ones that use the iCore model in the US or use the iCure model in the UK or similar models. And those incubators follow a methodology where the scientist entrepreneur has to have at least 100 conversations with potential customers. And typically in the course of, like, from conversation 1 to conversation sort of 90, they pivot several times. And by the time they get to 90, they have a pretty clear idea what the business model is, what the target market is, and so on. So, but most deep tech stuff is reasonably straightforward B2B. There are variations, but a lot of it is kind of, it's not sort of crazy business model. But typically by the time we're dealing with them, as a result of that sort of extensive market validation exercise they will have done, they have usually arrived at a reasonably plausible business model.
And the advantage in investing in deep tech is they have some sort of moat vs other segments that have crap tons of competitions and no IP, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So tell me about the three investments that I see on the website here. Like at first there's this Swedish company, Koitech, then there's Signabs, then TradeSac.
Yeah.
What are your hopes with these companies? How did they come under your radar, and why are you so bullish on them?
Yeah. So, I mean, they came to us in different ways. They came to us in different ways, and I'll go through them quickly. So, Quitech's fantastic company. It's a spin out from Sony Mobile, and it's the team within Sony that used to do the battery testing. They used to work on extending the life of the battery life of the Sony mobile phones. And so they took that technology out into a venture and said, okay, we are going to actually provide hardware and software to companies that are developing hardware products so that they can maximize their battery life. And a fantastic team. They were already operating as a little unit within Sony. They were generating revenue. So when we did the spin out, it was already kind of a going concern with like tremendous traction. And it's a fantastic team headed by Vanya Samuelson. And she's doing a great job, and it's gone really well. So I guess, I mean, they are absolutely the the sector leader. They definitely have the best product in their space, and they're growing very nicely. So that's Quitech. The second one is a spin out from the University of Surrey in the UK, and it's again female founded, female led, and we've accidentally 2/3 of our portfolio is female led. So it's a strange, it's unusual turn of events. They are automating the generation of sign language. which and they are way ahead of everybody else. That their key feature is that it is photorealistic sign language. So they're using AI to basically it generates sign language automatically. Their early market is in transport, and they have their solution is up and live in a whole bunch of airports in the US and UK, and in a significant portion of all the railway stations in the UK. Profoundly deaf people can get all of the key information in sign language. That's a really fantastic team. They're really leading edge in AI. The most recent investment is with a company called TradeSeek, which is using AI for essentially crop trait discovery. And TradeSeek is the first deal we've done, which is exactly the kind of repeatable model we're trying to come up with. They've come out of an incubator that we really like. They used a scorecard tool that we've created, which we have a whole bunch of incubators using. And so that's the model we're really going for. Certain incubators who are using our scorecard, and essentially it's a really efficient way for us and other VCs to identify value within those ventures. It's essentially a bunch of due diligence done for free. So the TradeSeek one, and our pipeline is mostly filled with similar ones now. But that's the summary of the portfolio so far.
Love it. Yeah, the female-led companies, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think STEM is now female-led. And also from a thesis perspective, women tend to be way more realistic. Plus, they're also outliers as founders, right? And as investors, I think that's what we're seeking. It's unconventional people and also different from or male counterparts that tend to bullshit a bit more on the stats side of things and the expectations, right? So I think it can be a good bet, generally speaking. Now, I want to ask you, like, why not found other companies at this stage? Why did you choose startup investment as a vehicle? Why not just invest in real estate, right? Why did you specifically chose that activity at this stage of your career?
Yeah. Great question. A couple of reasons. Would I like it? It's really interesting. I mean, and having really clever people come to you with ideas is like there's a great buzz. Secondly, if I say so myself, I'm good at it. I mean, I sat down a number of years ago with a good friend of mine, Joy Mason, and it was in the middle of my career, and I was trying to decide what to do next. And I said, Joy, look, just take a look at this. What do you think? And he looked at it and looked at all the looked at the companies I'd worked with. And I mean, you read my kind of tagline from LinkedIn, sort of 11 companies, 6 went on to scale and so on. And what Joy said is, look, you're either very good at this or else you're very good at picking companies. So it's either like I joined and I was amazing, I made the companies do all these things, or else I'm really good at picking companies. And I said, okay, well, I won't claim the credit for the success of the companies, but let's say I'm just good at picking companies. Like, that's a hit rate way above, for early stage investing, that's a hit rate way above the norm. So I say, okay, if I can get a fund behind me and do this, do this quicker, like you can do it to your point, you can either found a company, which is really slow, and I don't have an invention. Now, I am a commercial guy, and I know my stuff in early stage, so I can like when I rock up, I know from my own career experience, when I rocked up to early stage companies, said, hey, I'd like to join you as a sales guy, whatever. They said, oh, fantastic, great experience, come on in. But it takes about 3-5 years for each company to do it. Whereas if you've got a portfolio, if you've got cash, you can do a bunch per year. Now, we're very selective. We're not looking to do spray and pay or anything like that. So A, I like it. B, I think it's the most efficient way to use the skill set that I have to get a result.
Now, tell me a bit more about how you met your co-founder and how do you actually choose partners in terms of investment. There's always been the Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett kind of duo that are constantly talking about investment thesis and refining their thinking. Do you do that with your partner? Do you need someone with completely opposite views of yours, or someone that's good at playing the devil's advocate? Tell me about the partner, the duo at play here.
So myself and Tom Bernice started the fund. Tom and I worked very closely previously on my last venture, which was called Envy Endurance. I was CEO, he was head of business development. Tom's based in San Jose, California, and we worked really closely. We got on really well, and we with sorry, apologies for the dog barking in the background if you can hear that, but that's the world we live in. So that's how Tom and I came together. Very good working relationship. Now Tom has stepped back a little bit. Tom has taken more of an advisory role, and so I'm pretty much a solo GP right now. But I do have an investment committee that is representative of my LPs, and those guys, they're my sounding board. They're the guys. They're pretty savage, So it's so that's the counter view. Now the we didn't the investment thesis has really not changed since the beginning. We raised the fund with the investment thesis. It hasn't changed at all. But what has changed is our process. There is a lot of it's to do spin out stage investing, like when we meet there's any number of scientists around the world. Like if you put up a sign and said, I'm going to give out money here for scientists who want to create companies, I mean, you would be overwhelmed with unworkable ideas and so on. There's a lot of work in between the process of the scientist has got the great idea, it's been commercially validated. There's a lot of work between there and actually being able to write a check. There's normally a spin out actually has to happen. A company has to be formed. They have to do a license agreement with the university. And what's my point? So we found out the hard way. It took us a long time to really get the flywheel going because there's a lot of kind of process problems with that. So a lot of our innovation has been in process, and creating the scorecard and things like that were a key part of that. So the investment thesis has proven to be very resilient. It stacks up. The deals we've done are all going really well based on that investment thesis. Where we have done most work has been around process, like creating having a really good deal memo format. Stupid things like we've discovered that it's really, really important to have a deadline for deals. We need to have a time limit. Say, if our discussions with you drag on longer than this length of time, we're just going to walk away, because because people work really well with deadlines, and if things drag on, it's terribly inefficient. The VC business, the investment business, is about time and money. You've got a certain amount of money to invest, and there's only so many hours in the day, so you got to use it really smartly. So so that's it. So that's how Tom and I came together. That's the process, and I guess my investment committee, keep me honest.
What are your top goals for the remainder of this year?
Top goals are to we've got 3 deals we're quite far along with. I'd be really excited if I could get 2 of them done. One wouldn't be too bad. And I've got a bunch of other stuff going up, process stuff with new incubators and stuff like that. But my focus is to close, at least one. Like, I'd be wildly excited if we got all 3 done. So that's it, because we're still, like, the portfolio is still very small. I got great advice really early on. A whole bunch of people gave me great piece of advice, but one of the best ones was just get deals done. For credibility, just get deals done. So that's my top goal.
And when people find out more about you, Pearse?
So LinkedIn, our own website is pretty basic. It's about to get in my inbox, I've got a whole new website design I'm waiting to sign off. But LinkedIn is pretty good, and they can reach me through LinkedIn too. I think or on our website, my email address is there. So but just to be clear with people, I'm interested in deep tech. I don't want to really engage with people unless they have, under their own steam or with the help of an incubator, they've gone out and done a real effort to sell the stuff. They can tell me, hey, it's great science, and look, these people want to do business with me. Now, and I'm not saying, hey, and they'll say, but hey, that's why I need to raise the venture capital money to go out and hire the people. So no, you've got to do that somehow with your own resources. You can't ask investors to go and help you find out whether there's a market. You've got to at least have done that before you engage. So if you've got great science that's defensible, and you've got significant market validation with some early adopters, then come and talk to me. And I've got various tools and early adopter templates and things like that I can send on to people if they want as well. Or look me up on YouTube. There's a bunch of videos I've put up there about how to do some of this stuff.